and welcome to Viewpoint on Ukraine today. The International Criminal Court did not classify the force used against demonstrators by Ukrainian police during the 2014 Euromaidan protests as crimes against humanity. This has prompted anger in the Ukrainian society. Now the preliminary probe into the Maidan killings is done, but the ICC is still investigating crimes committed in Ukraine's east. Joining us now to discuss this and much more is Alexandra Matvichuk. She's a lawyer and an activist working for an NGO called Maidan SOS. Welcome to Viewpoint.
Hello.
I understand you're back from The Hague. Mm-hmm. Your organization, the NGO called Maidan SOS, what is its goals?
We create civil initiative Euromaidan SOS after a brutal disperse of peaceful student demonstrator on Maidan in 2013. And during all Euromaidan's time, we provide legal aid for all people who suffered from prosecutions in Kiev and regions. And through our hands went hundreds and hundreds injured people, beaten people, tortured people, people accused in criminals and administrative charge, and relatives of missing and killed people. That's why after Euromaidan we have a huge database of crimes and human rights violation which were committed by Yanukovych regime. And together with other human rights organizations, we submitted these cases to International Criminal Court.
As I understand, in these cases, you brought to the ICC's attention as well just a civil society organization, I guess, doing its job, what it believes is right. Now, if the ICC had ruled that the Maidan killings had been an act of crimes against humanity committed by the Ukrainian riot police, now what would that actually mean?
The problem in this intermediate conclusion of ICC is that court couldn't do the job by state, which applied to court. And on the state, International Criminal Court examined only materials which it received from us, from governmental body, from other agents. And court said that it's lack of evidence that this attack on civilians has systematic and widespread character. That's why now we started preparing new submissions, and we try to perceive court that this attack has these characters. And if we succeed...
Why is it so important for Ukraine, for the ICC to rule it as crimes against humanity? Why is it important?
Because according to the policy of court, the court is concentrated on the people on the chain of command who gives this command. And it's Yanukovych, it's Zakharchenko, it's Pshonka, so it's the high top management, ex-management of our state. And these people are in Russia now, or so it's not on Ukrainian territory, and it's very difficult for Ukrainian bodies to arrest them. And that's why for us it's a good opportunity to bring these people to the hand of international justice.
So you want the kind of European authorities to track down Ukrainian former leaders or former prosecutor, and you want them to be tried in a European court. You don't want to do this at home.
The problem is that we couldn't arrest them. We couldn't bring them to the trials. And it's very difficult to imagine that Russia Federation allow Ukrainian authorities to do it. That's why International Criminal Court...
But you think that the European authorities will get a chance to do this? Russia will allow them to do this?
You see, when International Criminal Court makes the warrant arrest, it means that the Yanukovych, Pshonka, they couldn't even enter any other democratic state. They can only be in Russia. And they will not make photo like Portnov in the buildings of Interpol, in the Austria or some other state. And who knows, maybe regime in Russia will change and they will follow the warrant arrest of International Criminal Court.
Mm-hmm. So you believe that the European authorities will bring these men to justice, and this will be done in a better fashion.
And another side of this problem is that it's international justice, not Ukrainian justice, and there are much more legality and trust to their conclusion. There is a huge Russian propaganda. We try to tell that there is no killings on Maidan, there is no prosecution at all on these months. It's extremists and fascists who try to liquidate all state institutions, etc., etc. And when International Criminal Court provides its investigation and gives a conclusion, it will be a high level of trust.
Now, I understand your organization is working with cases of captured Ukrainians in the east by the Russian-backed militants and prisoners of war. And can you talk about some of the first-hand accounts that you've heard about coming from the east?
We, together with other human rights organizations, provide a huge survey. We asked more than 160 people who were released from hostage. It was militaries and civilians. And then we try to understand what the trends is in this place of detentions in the occupied territories. Now we have information about 79 of such kind of place. The majority of them are not sued and not for capturing people even in short term. So the conditions are awful. But parallel to this,
what are some of the conditions like?
For example, one pregnant woman was brought to the small room. It's like a bus stop, the size of bus stop, without no ventilation, without any opportunity to go to the toilet or something like this. And she was refused to give, the paramilitary groups don't give her food and very rarely water. During 1 week, and she was pregnant in this time, and it was very bad for her and her child.
Where is she now?
Now she migrated to Israel because she is Jewish, and it's one interesting point. She also was beaten, and she asked not to beat her because she is pregnant. And these paramilitary groups told her, you are Jewish and you have pro-Ukrainian sympathy, your child have no right to life.
So how many women right now are being captured, are being held in captivity by the Russian-backed militants?
We know very small information. The official data is that now we have captured 148 persons. It's military, civilians, and also women. But we don't know how much women or military or civilians in reality. The volunteers initiatives who work with relatives of kidnapped people or missing people, they told that the real number are much more higher. But we know, according to our view, what's the behavior to the people who are imprisoned. 86% of military was tortured, and every second civilian was tortured. 20% of civilians who was tortured are women, even pregnant, as in previous case. And for 76% of civilians, such practice of torture were regular. And as 60% of civilians told us that they was witnesses of torturing to death. They are another people who was in this place of detention.
Shocking details. Now, let's talk about the prisoners of war. How does Ukraine see them? And how does the international community see them? And how does your organization portray them if technically they're not really prisoners of war, since the Ukrainian government has been very reluctant to announce that there's a war going on? They call it an anti-terrorist operation. So how are they being labeled?
There is a one important point in all this situation, because according to our review, we have a strong evidence that there is an organizing system of kidnapping and torturing civilians exists on occupied territory. What is interesting is that 44% in 44% of cases, the leading role of interrogation and beating people was executed by Russians' regular army or so-called Russians volunteer.
And you have proof of this?
We have evidence, we have testimonies, and we have a lot of information about it. But now we are in the Minsk process, and our partners from pro-democratic state ask Ukraine to give amnesty for people in the east who want to be elected in this local elections in the occupied territories. But you see, we have to divide politics and justice. I strongly believe that people who execute and who are guilty in such kinds of crimes, it's war crimes. They couldn't be amnestied. And our partners told us you have to think about peace, etc., etc., etc. But we know that there is no peace without justice. And if people in the East, and not only in the East, understand they can kidnap, abduction, provide rape, and torturing civilians, and they will be amnestied, our system of law will ruin totally. So yesterday I was in Berlin and I have a speech in Bundestag. We have discussed this amnesty, Minsk agreements, etc., etc. And I asked our German colleague to be aware on this fact.
I see. So your organization, it seems, still has quite a bit of work to do regarding POWs and some of these testimonies, and more work with the ICC to bring your points home. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
This has been Alexandra Matviichuk. She's a lawyer and an activist working for an NGO called Maidan SOS. You've been watching Viewpoint on Ukraine Today.